Good afternoon. Today is October 15th, 2018. It's about 10 after 6 p.m. And this is a meeting of the Streets and Sidewalks Committee. And to my right is Councilman Brock Heath, and to my left is Councilman William Lutz. I am Bobby Phillips, the chair. We're here to hear a staff report from the Planning Commission on vacation of a portion of Drury Lane right-of-way, which will narrow the street, the headline says, but I think is that correct?
That's correct.
Who's, Mrs. Rhodes, Mr. Titterington, who's?
I can give you the overview, and Jill can give you all the technical stuff, since we do have an official drawing on this one. We do have a petition and sent a request to the Planning Commission to narrow the right-of-way and vacate a certain portion of that right-of-way along a section of Drury Lane from 100 feet wide to 86 feet or 80 feet, depending on the section. Drury Lane west of South Ridge to Summit would be narrowed to 86 feet. Drury Lane west of Summit to Lake Street would be narrowed to 80 feet. You have a copy of the plat, and the Planning Commission on October 10th did unanimously recommend the council consider vacating that portion.
Okay. We're not, excuse me, we're only narrowing the right-of-way total. We're not paving streets. We're not changing anything there. It's just a narrowing of the right-of-way. And it looks like from the drawing that it's approximately 10 feet on both sides. Is that what I'm seeing?
It's fairly consistent on each side of the road, and it is anywhere from 7 feet on each side to 10 feet on each side.
Gotcha. And all of the property owners owners have been contacted on this?
They've all signed the petition.
Gotcha. Okay. I don't have any further. Yes, I do. You noted in the report that there may be unknown utilities, cable and such. Do we have a way of asking them where their utilities are?
We typically don't ask where utilities are. It's kind of a struggle sometimes to get utilities located, especially when it's not related to construction. So in accordance with 723.041, there will be easements that will be in effect, utility easements that will be in effect in that area where we are vacating. So that's kind of how we normally deal with it. Again, it's not we could call in OOPS, but a lot of times if it's for design or non-construction, even though OOPS is improving all the time, it's not a standard that the utility companies spend a lot of time to actually locate. And then we don't want to be responsible without digging down to actually say, okay, this is a Vectren utility easement or anything like that. So we just let the 723.041 kind of rule as if there are existing utilities there, they will have a utility easement.
Okay. And the property owners are fully aware of that?
Yes.
Okay. I don't have any other questions. Gentlemen?
Just that there is no digging here. It's just basically restriping the road, and you're going to have...
We're not even really restriping the road. So what happened was there was an encroachment into the right-of-way, and the property owner was trying to sell. And so they came to us and they requested that we narrow the right-of-way. Mm-hmm. Originally, I had dreams, because if you look at Drury Lane west of Ridge, it is extremely wide. So my original goal was, yeah, that sounds great. Let's narrow it back to the 60 feet that's on the east side of Ridge.
Yes.
And then potentially in the next couple of years, let's add some curb and let's start to narrow it down so we don't have to asphalt it, we don't have to maintain it. Yeah. And that didn't work out. Because we would be shedding potentially more water into people's driveways. And so that's definitely one thing that we didn't want to do if we ever did, if we ever proceeded with narrowing the actual asphalt footprint. So we're not actually doing any construction out there. We're just narrowing to remedy the encroachment. And we're also keeping the sidewalks in the right-of-way because it's a public function. And so that, the sidewalks being in the right-of-way is one of the requirements.
Okay, so no physical change.
No physical change.
Right. Thank you. That's all I had. Thank you.
Mr. Lutz?
So I guess we're just making it easier to ensure that future building improvements don't encroach in the right of way. That's kind of why we're doing this today.
Yeah, and to give, I mean, honestly, 100 feet of right-of-way isn't warranted out there, so to give people as much front yard as possible, right? So if they do want to do any kind of building or anything like that, that they can do it 10 more feet, you know, potentially now, because the right-of-way being 10 foot back and then having setbacks and da-da-da-da-da. A lot of times, some of those houses, their carport or their garage was right on the right-of-way, which means that they would never essentially be able to do anything. So at least to get the encroachment further away from the right-of-way is an improvement to them.
So will the lot lines change to allow for setbacks and things like that in terms of zoning?
Well, property lines will change.
Okay.
Because right-of-way's narrowed.
Okay.
So,
So
yeah,
their front yards will be deep, a little deeper.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
And so then setback would be affected as well.
Cool.
Any other folks have any
I
questions?
think you guys asked everything I was going to ask.
Okay.
Future paving projects out there then, would that affect that?
It is not going to affect that. Like I had said, I originally had hoped that we would narrow down the street and add the curb, but because of the elevation of some of the driveways, we would be potentially, like, that would kind of be the outlet for the stormwater. And so that's one of the reasons we can't go to narrowing. What we'd have to do it right is to reconstruct the road. And the small amount of traffic that's actually on Drury Lane, it doesn't really constitute reconstructing and lowering the road so that the water doesn't shed off. So, yeah.
Anyone else have any other questions? Anyone in the audience? Okay. This is not an emergency.
Correct.
What is your pleasure, gentlemen?
Let's move forward.
Go forward.
It's unanimous of the committee to move forward as staff has recommended and Planning Commission has suggested. Any other items come before Streets and Sidewalks?
No, sir.
All right, then we are.